Hey guys, let's get started. So today we're just going to continue with bash scripting, so we started that on Tuesday, and I'm going to do more problems today and just kind of illustrate the use of bash scripting, and then maybe I'll give you a couple of problems for you to work on for your homework assignment. Are there any questions before we get started? Do you have any questions? So I remind you, you're supposed to be working on your two-term projects, right? Project A and B, setting up Hadoop, and then setting up a service, whatever, as long as it's on Linux, right? Like an email server, VPN server, something like that. Okay, so presentations will be not this Tuesday, but the following. All right, so today, we're just going to keep going with bash. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more. We did some nice ones on Tuesday, like the ping statistics, and we're just going to continue to, build up our skill in bash, bringing together pretty much the commands, command line, grep and awk, and all the tools that we have available. So I like to do bash at the end because we can bring in pretty much everything together. All right. So let me, I think this is starting, right? I should be recording. And I think there's a homework assignment due tonight, probably a Wireshark one and something else. Command line.
Yeah, it's a Wireshark, there's a grep and awk, and then a case one.
Oh, the geolocate. That's right. Yes. All right. Did you guys have any issues with that or any questions? Everyone good? All right. Okay, so yeah, we'll start with a couple of simple ones today, and then build up from there. So just kind of to a warm up. So I have it here. So like I said, I'm posting these on the GitHub, so you can get them from there if you like. All right, so let's do just kind of warm up. Let's go over what we've done. So we did some if statements, loops, arrays, get average ping time, functions. We did a cut string, I think. Yeah, we did that one. Okay, so we did assigning the output from a command to a variable and being able to use that. So remember, that's actually really useful. So let's try just a simple one, find and replace. So a way of replacing a value in a variable, basically in a string. So we're going to start with that one. Should be very simple, and then we're going to continue playing with those. Okay. So like I said, bash is definitely powerful. It's what you're going to encounter in Linux environments. People will use that by default, but it doesn't have the power of something like Python, which has really powerful libraries, or Perl even. I didn't cover Perl much in this course, given that it's kind of old and, so. All right. So you guys can see the terminal. So let's open up the command line here. All right. So I'm going to navigate to the desktop. I think we're going to do some interesting scripts today. All right. So let's go to ITS. Page 72. Spring 2024. Okay. Let's -L. We can go to my bash, which I think it's where I was creating all the scripts. Yep. All right. So these are some of the ones we've done. So let's call this one find and replace.sh. Remember, I already indicated we're using the actual bash command to run these. So first, let's use the nano editor. Let's create find and replace, and this is just a very simple one to get started. Okay. And now, I remember some of you. All right, so that should be good. So let's start with the shebang here so that we can run these as executable. So bin /bash. Okay, then basically this is a simple one. We're going to have two variables and we're going to insert the value of one variable somewhere in the other variable. Okay, so let's create this. So first, and it's going to be equal to I drive, and I don't drive these cars, but I drive a BMW wish and Volt. Okay, so that's the sentence basically. Okay, now we're going to have a second variable, second equal cat or something. You can replace this with whatever you want. All right, so the goal is then, we're going to find a way to replace, how we can manipulate strings basically in Bash. That's really what we're learning. Remember, there's a strong emphasis, I'll repeat this, in dealing with strings, text files in Linux, because everything's a file and everything is a text file, in fact, logs, etc. And you probably have seen this with grep and awk. There's a common theme. We did this with Python, and now we're doing this a little bit with Bash. So then you can do, you can do echo here. And then here we're going to invoke the variable. And we basically need to grab the variable, tell the program, I guess, which thing in the variable we're trying to change and then with what. Okay, so that's the idea. So as you have seen, we use this $sign a lot. Then we're going to use curly brackets here. Curly brackets. Then basically it's kind of a relationship of three items separated by forward slashes. Okay, so we're going to go with the first one, which is where we're going to insert, if you will. So that's going to be first. Then we're going to say on what word. So it would be, let's say, BMW. And then over here, we tell it what we want to insert. So in this case, that also goes in double quotes, and we need to reference it. And that would be second, for instance, assuming this comes from a variable. Okay, and that's basically the procedure. So let's try it. So Control X, Y, find and replace with bash. And I drive a cat and a Volt. You see that? And we can change that to, what do you guys want to change this to? A what? An Audi? Yeah. An Audi. All right. So something consistent. Yep, there you go. All right. So pretty easy, just a warm up. So obviously they're going to get more interesting. So we did that one. I think we've done a lot of the very simple ones that are just basic, like scripting logic. So now we're going to start looking at inserting commands, like we've done before with Python with subprocess, and then just start processing things. We're also going to read some files. So that one is important, right? You want to, maybe I'll give you, as I said, to use the past WD file as a problem, as I always like to use that file in examples. All right, so let's go ahead and think of a new one here. So we've been using a command, which is echo quite a bit, and that's a command line command. So it's not like we haven't. All right, I kind of like this one. Let's use the sleep command in, that's available in Linux. All right, so I'm going to create a new script here. Clear, nano. I'm going to say sleep. And print, I guess. Print.sh. Okay, basically, maybe you want to have a delay. I think somebody had a sleep issue the other day, wasn't it you, Bob? Yeah. What was it for?
Well, I mean, it just happens most times when I put my laptop to sleep, I have to reset the entire VM.
No, but I mean, didn't you use sleep for a Linux command actually? There was something like for the or kill maybe for the TCP dump.
Oh, no, it was timeout.
Timeout. Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at that today, actually.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Good, good. So yeah, so these are can be, you know, you maybe you want to collect some data, sleep for a little while, and then do something, right? So that might be the scenario. So let's go ahead and try this one out. This just prints, but we should be able to see. All right, so again, you know, the shebang, bin, bash, okay. And now we're gonna do, let's say we're gonna sleep for, it's gonna sleep for 10 seconds and then print something and then, you know, keep doing that. Oh, so let's. Okay, so we can just play with this. So I'm just gonna do sleep. For 10. So this should be 10 seconds. I think so. So sleep for 10 seconds and should be another. Yeah, there we go. And then echo a message to the screen, such as I've been sleeping for, you know, I have been sleeping for 10 seconds. Okay. So that's basically the command. And then once you finish that command, let's do and again and sleep again, sleep for another 10 seconds, and then echo. And then echo. I done sleeping. Okay, so let's try that one out. There should be a little bit of a delay in this one. So Control X, Y, and then we're going to do bash here. Okay, you can see there's a bit of a delay, so you might want to time it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there you go. All right, so we got that to work. We did that one. Any questions on that one? Bash scripts or just, you know, sleeping? Okay. So you might, for some reason, slow down the execution between commands, etc., as you're running your bash script. So this gives you a little bit of control for that. Okay. All right, we talked about comments, so we did that one. We've gotten user input, so I know we did that one. We've covered loops. I'm just going through my notes. We covered arrays, conditional structures, functions. So those were all the basic, you know, scripting types of things. Oh, we haven't done this one. So let's do string length. Okay. So basically the length of a sentence, Bash has this # operator within the $. The hash operator can be used to get the length of a string variable. And that can be useful sometimes. So let's go ahead and do nano. Let's call this string length. String length. sh. Okay. So we're going to do bin, bin like that. Bin bash again, right? Okay. So we're going to create a string. So I'm going to call it my string. And that's going to be equal to some sentence. So let's say, let us count the length of this string. Okay. So let us count the length of this string. So we want to have the length basically, right? So I equal $, and then in curly brackets, we are going to grab my string, but we are going to add the pound sign in front of it. Oops, sorry. Pound sign in front of it, and then we echo that variable to the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to do echo length $I. And it's that simple. Make sense? Yeah. Yeah, so go ahead. So, with my goal with these scripts, what I would say is like I have my own repos on GitHub. Usually they're my cheat sheets, right? So load these up on your own GitHub, and then whenever you want to do a bash script, pretty much you can build it out of one of these or some of these combined. All right, so let's go ahead and run bash. All right, it says it's 38. So you think there's 38 letters here? I guess 1, 2, 3. Let's count the space. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 30. So pretty good. All right, so we can calculate the number of characters in a string. Okay, that can be very useful to measure the size of usernames, passwords, etc. So you can see discrepancies, etc. All right, so we've got our scripts there. Let's see what else we can do. We talked about cut and how extracting, we can cut it, by delimiters like comma. Okay. We've done a find and replace, so we've done that. All right, so we may want to also concatenate strings, right? So we did this with Python, it was a plus. So we're going to do this with bash just to get a feel for it. So I'm going to call this script concatenate strings. So we're going to concatenate. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that one. Nano concatenate strings dot sh. All right. Pound sign, exclamation, bin bash. So we're going to create two strings, and then we're just going to concatenate them together. And it should be pretty straightforward. So I'm going to do the first one, first string. And it's going to be the secret is ... Then we're going to create a second one, second string bash. So then now the third string will be a combination of the two. So we're going to do $, first string, and then $, second string. So if there aren't any typos, hopefully this should work. So now we can go ahead and echo this out. And it should be third string. Okay. Control X, Y. So now let's run it. All right, and there you go. The secret is bash. All right, so that's another one. Concatenating a string. We'll do some math ones in a bit. But let's now start doing something a little bit more interesting. Let's see. So let's create some directories. This should be, but we're going to create several directories, okay, with bash. Okay, so let's call this one directories sh. So directories dot sh. So this, do that. Bin bash. So at this point, this is a command you should know in Linux. How do you create a directory? Yep, mkdir, right? So mkdir -p, and basically let's create some directories in here. So we're going to create math, comma, English, comma, geography, comma, and arts. Okay. Can also create directories within those directories, but let's just try this for now. And as you can see, it's basically just a Linux command, right? So let's see if it works. Run bash. Okay, no errors. And as you can see, it has in fact created my directories. Now let's say that we want to create these directories, and inside they're going to have also subdirectories. How could we do that? All right, so I'm going to do nano directories, and basically I can just add / and now indicate that I want to create two directories in each of these. So I'm going to say something like labs, comma, exams, for instance. So each course would have labs and exams, for instance. All right, let's try this one. I'm going to hit clear. Now they already exist, so it may not like that. Okay, it worked, ran. The directories do exist. Now let's go into arts. ls-l, and as you can see, arts in fact does have exams and labs. Probably you can check yourself, but the other ones, I assume, and I'm sure, also have it. You can see there. Any questions? Right, pretty easy. All right, so that's one where we start to use more like Linux commands. So we've done that. Okay. Okay. Now we want to a simple reading a file. So this would actually be very straightforward. I'm going to create a file. And you can use clever tricks like just using cat, for instance, and read it in that way. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. So we've already seen how we can assign things to a variable. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to create a file here, my sample file, my sample file.txt. And I'm just going to add some text in here. I'm just going to randomly type some things. Okay, so just randomly typing things. All right, and then we want to read that text from another file and manipulate it somehow, right? So it might be very complicated, or you can just leverage the power of Linux. So I'm going to create now a script called read files. .sh. You've already used the cat command to read in the Gutenberg books, so you get what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. So again, # exclamation, bin, bash, and then a variable, my value or my text, for instance. Here we can use the following, which we talked about a little bit before, this symbol, right? What's the name of this one again? Forget what it's called. Something. You guys get, I forget, but I mentioned the name on Tuesday. It just escapes me. Okay, so yeah, this little symbol. Upper left-hand corner under the squiggly line. All right, so we're going to run here. This allows us to run basically a command as well. And I think we did one example like this. So here, basically, you're just running the cat command and calling my sample file.txt. Okay, and then you can just go ahead and do echo of my value. So we're assigning it to a variable, which is very much what we talked about on Tuesday, right? So we're using that functionality. So now, hopefully, this will print out the text. And you have a way of bringing in text into your bash script for doing further processing. There's lots of things you can do, honestly. And this is just one approach. So we're going to do read files, bash. And there you go. Okay, so you could have used this for the map reduce problem also, right? With the Gutenberg books and so on. You can see how you can start adding layers upon layers. Okay. All right, so the next one, let's see what else. I think I've given you this problem already. I think we literally did this one, right? We counted some cars from a list, if you remember. So yeah, we'll do it again, I guess, but I'm pretty sure we did this at some point. So this is, let's call this one, print and count lines, maybe. So well, yeah, let's print the lines. So we're going to create a file here for cars. So nano cars.txt. And I'm just going to add in here Audi, BMW, Volvo, and Toyota. Let's see. All right, so 4 cars in it. Okay, Control Y. All right, we save it. Now we can go ahead and create a new script. We're going to call it print lines. And then this can also help us to count the number of lines in the file. So I'm going to do nano. Print lines. Print lines. Data section. All right, so first thing, shebang. In bash. So the file is cars.txt, so my file. My file. So this is like a very interesting thing. Interesting trick, I think. So cars.txt. So the question here is, how do you assign the file to some code, basically, right? So in this case, a loop that is going to do things. So what you can imagine is that we know that this is the file cars, right? And we are going to basically like pass it to the loop like this. So imagine we've already talked about these symbols, right, which allow us to redirect things, right? Think of it as a redirection. So then I'm doing $ my file. Do you see that? So it's essentially like this file exists. I'm putting it in my file, then I'm grabbing it here, and then I'm gonna pass it. You guys see that? And then I'm gonna pass it to the logic, basically, which is gonna be a while loop in this case. Okay. So I'm going to do then here. The while loop is gonna end with, oops, sorry. The while loop is gonna end with done. So that's kind of, we're passing it to it, okay, from the end. So now we need a, counter. So that's going to be I = 1. Then we've already done the while loop structure, but now this is a little bit more complex because we are going to use it to read in this file. So I'm going to do while read lines. You see that? So we are reading that file that comes in through here. Okay, so we do semicolon do. Okay, and then what do? We basically now provide the control logic here of the while loop. So this should be something echo and echo. What do we want to echo? Probably the counter. So $I, right? So we're going to echo, and we're going to say, in this case, each line. I'm going to say read line, actually, because I think it's a little bit more logical. And then colon line like that. And of course, the $. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm basically trying to print out each line with the line index that I'm providing for it. We're going to need to increment that as a counter, basically. So to do that, I'm going to do I equal, and then $. Oops, sorry. We've done this before as well. And here we're going to perform the I + 1 operation. So that should be an I + 1. And hopefully that should be it. Okay. We may want to, well, I guess we have the final echo at the end, which will tell us but we'll come back to it. So let's just run this one. Make sure there's no errors. So there should be 4 cars, I believe. We're going to do bash, and there you go. It actually does 5 there. All right, so let's, okay, so we got to fix this, right? So what do you guys think? What did I do wrong? Oh, you know what? There may be another line in the cars.txt. That's the first thing I'm going to check. Yeah, you see, that's what the problem is. Okay, so how do we get rid of that? Probably, yeah, probably like that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Repeat. Yeah, there we go. So it's fixed. Okay. And then, maybe we want to also, no, sorry, not this one. We want to, yeah, maybe we want to say something like echo the total count or line count is, and then $. I. Okay, so hopefully this should give us 4. Total line count is 5. I guess it does increment it in the end, but you guys can fix that, just -1. All right, any questions? Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. So this is basically manipulating this. Now, let's see. All right, so now we're gonna write a bash script to create a file, right? And if it exists, we're gonna delete the file. All right, so we're gonna check for that. So we're gonna check if the file, we're gonna create it. We're gonna create an empty file, in fact. So how do you create an empty file in Linux? You guys know how to create files, nano, right? Or VI or something. But how do you create an empty file of size 0 without putting up? Because if you use nano, you have to put something in there, right? Even a space, that's not empty technically. How do you create an empty file? Which sometimes you may need to do that for configurations. So you use a command called touch. All right, so that's the Linux command touch. So actually this you'll use in one of your labs in the future. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's call this script delete files, basically. That's a good name. So nano delete files, that is it. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Same thing as before. The contents of it doesn't matter. We just need a file that actually does exist. So I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it my file. And I'm going to say something like planes.txt. Okay, so I'm going to create that planes.txt. All right. So touch, basically. I mean, that's the nice thing about bash, right? So just the Linux command goes there. So you can say touch and then $, my file. All right. So now that should be enough. So let's go ahead and run it. So obviously it doesn't exist, as you guys know. I ran it, ls-l. There's a lot of information here, and I can't see it for whatever reason. So what do you do when you want to view the contents and access control of a file, but there's so many that ls-l is not helpful? What can you do? You can just do ls-l in that specific file. You can do ls-l planes.txt. And there you go. And so this also works nicely, and you can see the file is there. Is it empty? You should be able to determine that now because it has a 0 value. Right? And then you can do cat planes, and of course, it's empty. All right, so now we have the file. Now let's add some logic in here. So we're going to use an if statement and check if it exists. Okay, we're going to check if it exists. So I'll do this with 2 files basically, and then it'll print out file exists, delete it, or file does not exist. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. access control is critical here, as you know. All right, so let's use that same script. Yep, delete files. Okay. And let's change this with nano. All right. So now I want to add a little bit of I'm going to add a comment here just to say, check if the file exists. Okay, just as a reference for you. Check. If file exists. So you know how to use the if statements. You can say if some condition, right? Then we're going to have an else in there. And then we're going to have a fi, right? So we're going to say if the file doesn't exist, let's just say echo the file $. My file, right? Yeah, my file. My file. Yeah, that should be. Okay, yeah. All right, the file, my file, does not exist. Does not exist. Okay. But if it does exist, we want to basically remove it. So we want to do rm, and so we have to think here how we're going to perform this one. Let's say planes dot txt. And then we're going to say echo my file has been deleted. Okay, just like that. All right, so that's basically the idea. So the last thing we need to change is the statement here to figure out if the file exists. So there's a command -f basically that basically allows you to determine if a file exists or not. It's going to return true or false. Okay, so then here we just provide my file like that. Any questions? All right, so in the logic here, we create planes, check if the file exists. If it does exist, we're going to remove planes and echo that it's been deleted. Otherwise, it's going to say that it does not exist. All right, let's go ahead and try that one. Planes txt has been deleted. Okay. And we can do planes.txt. No such file directory. So it has indeed been deleted. Any questions? All right, so I'll give you a few minutes now. Take a few minutes. And if you notice, I changed this. I made rm and I hard-coded the name, but remove it from the variable name. You see what I'm saying? So you have to use my file in place of planes.txt, where my file would contain planes.txt. Do you guys understand? So work on that for a little bit. It'll take like 5 minutes and let me know if you solve it. Okay, and then we'll continue. I'll pause the recording. Where's it stop? It's stopped.